I want to add to the larger conversation on honoring your ancestors, but I'm not going to specifically have this conversation from a religious perspective or a spiritual perspective, but I want to have it from more of an educational and informative perspective. Now, I understand there's many different nuances and intersections that go and contribute to the conversation at large. And I do understand the role that religion plays specifically within the Black community and how we find pockets of joy, pockets of hope, pockets of freedom. But as someone within academia whose research is specifically not only seeking out Black stories starting from the antebellum period to current day, but honoring those stories, I find it so disheartening and disappointing to see the conversations that are being birthed out of the the disrespect to those who came before you, right? And I think the lack and the willful ignorance of understanding the core messages of this whole conversation is very important to the key fact. But I want to speak about specifically on why it is important to honor those that came before you and not from this mystical being perspective. And I guess that is my first point. Your ancestors, and when we are using the word ancestors, they are not a mystical being. They were real people, real lives, real stories. Real sacrifices were made for you to breathe freely. Like, that is not a whoopsie daisy. You to have the ability to sit in a university of your choice, you having the ability to apply to university, you having the ability to walk freely, you having the ability to go to school, go to work, to vote, to eat, to do these things. We're not happenstance. And that's the point that I really want to continue to ground this conversation in. I believe about a year and a half ago, I did a video. Someone asked me, how do you become a critical thinker? And I said that you have to learn history. You have to learn the history of marginalized people. You have to learn the history of oppressed people to understand how to paint a picture fully, but also how to think critically through things. And also, it innately will build a deeper sense of empathy and understanding, fingers crossed. And I've had the privilege, and I really, really, really want to name that. I've had the privilege to spend hours upon hours researching, finding the stories of those who came before me, those who sacrificed their work, their research, their academe, made way for me, not only to be a student, not only to be a researcher, but to also be an educator. And I think a lot of times when we have the conversation on like, what is your why? Especially within the academy, we typically only talk about the students that we serve, the communities that we serve. Rarely ever will you hear people say those who came before them. And I make it a point, every discussion post, every summit, every conference, every lecture, every paper that I write, to name, date, and hold spaces for those who allowed me to breathe freely. And this is the part that I always get emotional about when I talk about it, because that is no small feat. And I think by us undermining that creates and adds to the larger conversation and actual practice of erasure. And I also think this is why I'm so protective of my writing in particular when it comes to academia, because I want to ensure that I'm honoring not only the students that I serve, but also making sure that I'm honoring those who came before me. If you did not know, I am also Gullah. On my father's side, and on my mother's side, I am Creole. And so to understand the subcultures and the communities within America, within Black America, is also very important to me, because I am a product of that. To also understand the nuances of what it means to come from a Black military family and the nuances that contribute to that. But what pains me the most to these conversations, as a researcher, I see how insidious and how quick erasure happens. I see how quickly narratives change. And I also think I used to work in tech, and then Gen AI is also a part of my research that I'm currently doing, to see also how quickly narratives can shift and change, and people not understanding the importance of understanding history, the importance of understanding those who came before you. Again, not from this mystical perspective, but to understand in the Carolinas, in Louisiana, less than 250 years ago, the life that I currently occupy wasn't even a dream, because of the suffering that those who share the same blood that I do had to endure. And so I would be damned to say anything other than thank you, to say anything other than or hold any other space other than honoring those who endured a life that I couldn't even fathom, that I couldn't even imagine, that experienced a suffering that I genuinely could not even imagine. A nightmare would not even suffice. And connecting this to, of course, y'all don't have to connect everything to love, connecting this to the conversation of love and what it means to love, but specifically what it means to love someone that doesn't even know you exist. To understand what it means to put in the work, to put in the sacrifice. And I have, again, the honor to do the work within the academy. If you only knew how the academy is education as a whole, the work that I have to do from the back end, the work that I am doing from the back end, this, what I would deem a small sacrifice in comparison to those who came before me. To say anything but thank you is a disgrace. And that is the part that people are not grasping. That is the severity. And then also what aids to the erasure of the conversation is how quick social media and how quick people want to add their commentary, I guess I could say, and how that also fuels something that you don't want to be fueled, because we all share the same internet.